Ryan's Thoughts on Cars. Oh, 50 in 2025. What's going on? What is going on? There's kind of a lot going on here. I've been pretty quiet. I haven't really made a lot of videos for this channel in a little while here because there has been so much going on. There was an election that happened, and the party I didn't want to get in got in. I live in Alberta, and talks of separation are now like open talk. You walk down the street, you talk with people, and I grew up in Alberta. I moved to BC for about 10-15 years there a little while back, and came back to Alberta. But separation, super fringe theory back in the day. People wouldn't openly talk about it. You were basically talking, people talked more about aliens and like the government cover-ups more than they were talking about Alberta separation, right? But now, people are openly talking about it. I had the landlord come over, and it was one of the first things he talked about. He's like, no, them liberals, no, we gotta, this separation thing is probably a good idea. They're running the country into the ground. This is not the Canada that I grew up in, that I voted for. And in the future of Canada under this regime or this party, I just can't see it going anywhere good. It's kind of the thing that he was saying, right? And, it was tough to argue any of it. It really was tough to argue any of it because, been getting a crap deal and just going to get a crap deal going further on. Everybody's struggling for work, for food, cost of living. I mean, thankfully we live in a rich province where it has been a rich province where you could rely on oil money and gas money to create jobs and things like that so that you can make a paycheck and feed your family sort of thing. But the government doesn't want that anymore. They want to limit all of that stuff. They want to limit. They don't want us to make oil and gas anymore, or mining or anything. So something's got to happen there. What else? Around the house, lady I work with, she wanted to get rid of some big planter boxes in her backyard. And I said, hey, you know what? I'll take the dirt. I'll take the soil. And me and my co-worker were arguing over the lumber that these planter boxes are. I'm like, I want some. I thought he wanted it all, to be honest with you, when we were first talking, but turns out he doesn't. He just wants a few pieces of the lumber from those planter boxes. But me and my dad went over on the weekend, Mother's Day weekend, and emptied out most of the soil that she had wanted to get rid of, and a whole bunch of rocks in the front, and some old planters, and just stuff she did not want. So that was her Mother's Day present. I got rid of the stuff that she didn't want, and the thing is that my mom wanted planting soil and planters, and I said, hey, do you want these rocks too? Because they're actually pretty beautiful rocks, and rocks are expensive these days, right? Me and my dad spent all weekend hauling dirt and rocks back to the house, and that was my mom's Mother's Day present, right? Being the good son. It was good, and she was very happy about it. And I haven't seen my boss today yet. I got to let her know a couple things because she did buy a wheelbarrow, and I said I'd have a look at it when I was over there to see what it needs. She bought it for $5 off of some random garage sale or something, and she didn't know what was wrong with it. So I asked, me and my dad went over and looked at it, and we are wheelbarrow professionals, right? We know everything there is to know about wheelbarrows. We did concrete. If you didn't have a wheelbarrow, concrete didn't move. So yeah, we went and looked at it, and the wheel on it, Like, I thought it'd be like a flat tire or something like that, because we've done that in the past where we bought wheelbarrows and the tire is flat, and people just, the cost of the tire doesn't equal the wheelbarrow sort of thing, and they just don't want the headache. But the bearings in it are gone in the hub, and she basically needs a new wheel. I don't know about repacking bearings or anything. So she doesn't seem like she'd be repacking bearings or anything. But just, a new wheel on that would be fine, and tightening it up everywhere. I gotta let her know that. And then there was a planter out front that had broken. We were gonna take the dirt out of it and throw it in the garbage can for her. But we got digging in it, and there was a red ant's nest in it. Pretty big one, actually. And so we just left it. And I gotta let her know that's why we left it. Don't go digging around in there. We didn't want to transfer the ants either. We didn't want to bring them back home. So you gotta put some ant killer in there and get rid of that colony. And then you can throw out the planter sort of thing. I gotta let her know that. And yeah. So that was good. Hard work. Shoveling dirt. Me and my dad have been doing that the last few years for our own planters and stuff. Making soil, making garden soil. We've been doing that for the last few years. And it's a lot of work to do that. But we kind of had a giggle about that, where all it seems we'd be doing around the yard together is like shoveling dirt. Oh, it's like, yeah, it seems to be that way. Yeah, before the move, so we had made this, a bunch of planter boxes in our backyard at our old house in BC there on the island, and grew vegetables and stuff in it. But in order, we weren't being paid a whole lot of money. There was not a whole lot of extra money, especially after the pandemic. And prices went up on everything so much that, and we did get a load of black dirt delivered, clean black dirt delivered. But then we decided more boxes and we needed more dirt. So I thought, let's just make it. Let's make some garden soil. There was a guy around the block who showed up on one of the apps or whatever. It was Garage Sale, not Facebook Marketplace. We didn't use that so much on the island, but Garage Sale. And he said, free dirt, come and get it when you want. And I worked it out. And I went and did it in my BMW. I would load up we had 4 big Tupperwares, these heavy-duty construction Tupperwares, that I could fit in my BMW. I put the seats down in the back and 2 in the front, 2 on the seats laid down, and I could fit 2 in the trunk. And I must have did 6-7 loads. A few yards of dirt anyway. Just straight dirt. And it was weeded. He had weeded it, and it was just, I can't remember what, he was just dug it out of the backyard. I don't know if he was doing an addition or a pool or whatever. Probably an addition. But yeah, I'd just pull up to his driveway. I'd shovel dirt, go empty him out, and then I'd come back and do it some more. I did it, I did that quite a few times. But then we added perlite, we added compost, we added manure, we added sea soil, we added sand, a lot of sand, and mixed it up really good, and made some really decent, really decent garden soil for a first run, and grew stuff there. Now, at the end of that, the landlord, our rent was cheap for the island anyway at the time, and it was probably the cheapest on the block, but he basically told us that he didn't want us there anymore. He wanted to raise the rent. And with a tenant in there, he couldn't raise it so much. He was raising it the minimal amount every year sort of thing, right? But the deal was that we would move in there. When we first moved in there, the place was a shithole. They had renovated the inside and the kitchen. I'm not going to say the inside, but they did the flooring throughout the house. They didn't do any painting. They did. It was really bad, but they completely redid the kitchen but the outside was a disaster, complete disaster. A hoarder had lived there. There was, 15 or 20 dog pails of or pails, 5-gallon pails of dog shit filled up that was just sitting there. There was a, one of those drums, like oil drum or whatever, that was filled to the rim with dog shit. There was all kinds of branches. We did a whole big cleanup. So the idea was that it was basically a party house. Crack house is what it seemed like. It was the worst house on the block, and the neighbors, after living there for a few years, the neighbors were telling us that was the problem house, that was the problem house, that was the problem house, right, that we're living in. And that they were so happy that we were moving there, fixing the place up, sort of thing, right? And the idea was that we would make improvements to the property and take care of it, and you keep the rent low, and that's the deal, But we have full use of the outside because we're taking care of it, right? He did have a 2-bedroom basement suite that he rented out to his wife's basically co-workers. They were bringing in foreign workers to work at her care home thing. She was a care home thing. So they were bringing in foreign workers and Filipinos and housing them in that thing in the basement. And so every time that as soon as we started fixing up the place and it started getting nice, whoever was living downstairs, nobody lasted a year. Whoever was living down in the basement always wanted use of, the yard that we had been fixing up and maintaining, right? And to the point where the landlord was now saying, yes, they're allowed to have use of the backyard, sort of thing. So we would give them a little bit of space. But we put in all these garden boxes and planters and things like that. And all of a sudden, now, these people wanted to plant in our planting boxes. And then the landlord's saying, well, yeah, they can. And we were like, screw this. Screw this. So what we ended up doing, because that happened, we said, you know what? We're moving. I don't know where we're moving to, but we're going to be moving. Rip it out. So that's what we did. All the work that we did, we just ripped it out. All that stuff was ours. It was paid out of our own pocket. Landlord didn't pay for anything. So that's what we did. We took apart all the planting boxes and for all the gardening stuff that we did. All the we actually put a little sort of irrigation thing on a timer, ripped that out, and left it the way we received it. We took the dirt and dumped it at the dump, like literally, like we literally got rid of everything. He wasn't going to have it. We weren't going to walk away from it. We just made sure nobody else was going to get it. We had a shed that we had built, a 10 by 10 during the pandemic, had it delivered, and we built it. We had that, we sold it, took it apart, took it away. He had this crappy little metal shed that the roof was caved in, the doors didn't work. That was the first thing that we fixed up, actually. We reinforced the roof, we made sure it wouldn't leak, we caulked everything, we made sure, because we had to store tools and things, right? We did that, put a brand new door on it. So we took the door off, we left everything the way that, well, to be honest with you, we left that place better, than when we received it. But while we were there, it looked spectacular. But we took all that away. And it was the same thing with the front. We did, it was nasty. I mean, nothing was looked after. It was all neglected and things. So we ripped out, there was some sort of bed that was laying under there. We ripped out the bricks and things for the bed, and we put in a new one, and made it look fine, made it look great. We had some planters out front, things like that, and we ripped it all out, took it away, There wasn't even grass, man, in the front. There wasn't even grass. It was, while we were living there, we improved it. There was now grass. It was all looking good, and no, just take it away. Doesn't deserve it, sort of thing. Has that ever happened to you, where you're doing something, make an agreement with somebody, and then all of a sudden they're reneging on it, sort of thing, and you're like, oh, well, rip it out, take it away. Don't give them the satisfaction, that kind of thing. Yeah, so now at the new place, there was nothing. There was literally nothing. It's just like this an acre and a half of grass, and the landlord's saying, "Yeah, I'll till up a space for you." And I'm like, "I don't, okay, yeah, but we got to get something started here. We want to plant food. We're all gardeners in my house. We're all gardeners, so we like doing that stuff, right? We really like getting out there in the dirt and watching things grow and nurturing all of that stuff. And hey, thumbs up if you're a gardener. I do tomatoes. I love doing the tomatoes. I love doing the zucchini too. Beans. And then we do all sorts of other things. My dad, he does the potatoes. He's been playing with that. Normally he just puts them in the ground and all that, but we've been playing with pots. We've been playing with potato bags, 5-gallon pails, that sort of thing. And he really likes that idea, because he can go get them once in a while. Just turn the bucket over and pull out the potatoes, and that's all you got. You don't have to dig anything up, sort of thing, right? That's really good. So yeah, we're gardeners, and so we got the itch on for planting stuff, right? I bought a whole bunch of seeds. I made a video about it. We want to get them all going. I want to get the herbs going. I went to the dollar store. I bought a bunch of those tiny little terracotta pots, because I got this plant stand at my job. It was cast iron. It's from Lee Valley, and it's beautiful. Cast iron. And we thought, hey, we'll put that on like a deck or something, and put some flowers and maybe some herbs. Start like a little herb tier thing, because it's a whole bunch of stands on a pole, and it all swivels around, right? So, and it's kind of like treed out, so you can. It's a really neat stand. It's good quality. Like I said, it's made of cast iron, right? And all these sections are on this. Yeah, and that would be perfect for a little herb stand, I guess, outside the door for the summer anyway. So I bought a bunch of little pots from the dollar store that I can put on there, because we threw out all of our gardening stuff that we had accumulated on the island there, and it was a really good stash. Starter pots, things like that. Like I don't even want to get into it. Trays. We were totally set up for gardening. Now we had to get rid of it, because we're moving across the province. What are you going to take with you? What aren't you going to take with you, right? So we got rid of it all. So now we're starting from scratch in that sense. We're starting from scratch again for gardening. So the soil was a big deal for me to go and get, because we do still have in Victoria, in a storage unit, some Pro Mix stuff that we had that was absolutely gorgeous, and we didn't want to throw that out, but we also couldn't bring it. But there was other stuff too, so we just got this little storage unit, and we got to go back and get it. But getting soil, decent planting soil from fresh is difficult, especially if you're on a budget, which we are, So it was really good to have that find from my coworker at work there, to have her have these planting boxes. And I just found out today that like my other coworker, the guy I work with, he was saying that he wanted the lumber from those, because she doesn't want the planters at all. She just wanted it back down to grass, sort of thing, right? And these things were all over her yard, and they're quite big. A bunch of 2x8, 2.5 feet by 8 or 10 feet, I think, are the boxes, and 16 inches high, like 2x8 stacked on top of each other. And I thought he said, like he had said, like, I want the lumber. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll take the dirt, right? That kind of deal. But then I found out that he only needs a few wheelbarrows of the dirt, so we can go get the rest of the dirt. But he only wants 4 of the 2x8s, which is basically one of the boxes. One of those planters is for 2x8s. And I was like, whoa, okay, then can I have the rest of the lumber? Because I need the lumber. He's like, yeah, I have the rest of the lumber. It's like, okay, perfect. That's what we'll do then. So texted my dad. So we got a line on. good lumber for some, planting box, raised beds for the backyard. Done. You know, had to give it up back on the island, and the universe kind of switches around and says, well, you know what, here, you can have this stuff for free, you just got to work for it, sort of thing, right? It's all come full circle. Like, oh yeah, excellent. And it's about the same amount of stuff that we had to get rid of at the time, maybe a little bit more, actually, now that I think about it, because 1 box, 2 box, so it's 3 small boxes. Yeah, I mean, they're bigger than the ones that we had. Yeah. No, plus all the pots. No, we had a ton of pots. We had everything in pots. Pots and raised beds. Yeah, 3 little raised beds and a ton of pots. Like a ton of pots. We were growing tomatoes out of pots, man. But yeah. It's come full circle, right? The universe is taking care of us, and that's good news. So hit like if the universe is taking care of you. Subscribe if you want the universe to take care of you. Keep watching this. The universe will take care of you. All right, see you on the next one.